share with us, from a gas perspective, where do you think the opportunities are? Now, we've heard about all of the resources that are available and all the significant work that guys across the value chain in exploration are doing. How do you fit into that gap? We know also that gas has huge potentials in terms of bridging the need for energy in our nation. How do you promote that? How do you see those opportunities?
First of all, let's ask ourselves, how did we get into this mess we are in today? Here we are, a country that yesterday was 180 million people, and today I'm told is 198 million people, is going to be the third largest country in the world in the next 10, 15 years. We, on average, share per capita electricity of 7 bulbs, the equivalent of 7 bulbs. That's what we share in terms of the total power we generate in Nigeria. The minister proudly announced the other day that we generated 5.16 gigawatts of power, the highest ever generated in Nigeria, for a country that, if we had done all the right thing, we should be generating 198,000 megawatts of power. So if you're talking about opportunity, that is the biggest opportunity you can ever think of. We're generating 5, we ought to be generating 198, so we're short of 193 gigawatts of power. If there's anybody who understands business, that is business, okay? That is the biggest opportunity I can think of in the world today in terms of power for people. Prosperity is not a function of the resources you own. It is how you use those resources for the benefits of your people. So we're sitting on 192 TCF of gas, and I guarantee you that today, in this hall, power will go out at least 2 or 3 times because of the journey we've made so far. And what were the mistakes we made in the past? We had a monopoly, NEPA, that controlled power generation. We had problems with the fact that gas prices were so low, the international oil companies that were producing gas in those days did not want to produce gas for domestic uses. However, government initiated a few policies, something called AGFA, which is the Associated Gas Framework Agreement, NAGFRA. All of those incentives were put in place to try and make use of, first of all, initially associated gas, and then subsequently non-associated gas. And those policy frameworks led to that very highly successful NLNG project, one of the best companies in the world today. It led to the Chevron Escravos gas liquids project, the West African gas pipeline project, and it led to the development of a rudimentary but aging gas infrastructure, okay? But the key fundamental was that the price was so low that none of the oil-producing companies wanted to invest in gas. And because of that, sitting on 192 TCF, we are in darkness today. Let us understand the gas value chain, the gas power value chain, so that we're all on the same page. It starts with people like myself and Demola. We take huge risks to go and explore for gas, okay? We explore for gas today now. 10 years ago, nobody would explore for gas. The gas we have, the 192 TCF, were accidentally discovered in the quest for searching for oil. But today, people, if things are right, if the right decisions are made, we need to actively explore for gas. When we do find gas, we bring it from the ground to the surface. We treat it in a gas processing plant because gas has impurities. And if you don't take out those impurities, you would actually not be able to supply it to consumers. From the gas processing plant, somebody transports it in either a short or a long pipeline, ultimately to the end user. The end user can be a variety of customers. It can be a power company, a Genco. It can be a gas-based industry, such as a fertilizer or a petrochemical or a methanol plant. And it can be other people, such as LPG, compressed natural gas, micro-LNG, all kinds of uses. But in that value chain, you go from exploration to consumption. And I think the good thing is that we need to understand that the gas power value chain, I'm only taking the gas to power aspect of it, has a huge problem. That gas power value chain is completely broken. It's completely broken in the sense that it is such an interwoven and interdependent value chain. If one aspect of that chain is weak, then the entire value chain is weak. The biggest weakness we have in the gas to power value chain today is that the discos, the end consumers or the end distributors of power to consumers, all of us who are seated here are consumers, have huge liquidity problems.
For as long as we do not think from the beginning to the end, we have issues. So part of the issues that you belabored on the value chain was, well, we're generating, but we have issues on the last mile. And I think that when one talks about sustainability, you have to talk about things like renewable energies. So I want to ask the room, globally seen, not Nigeria, which sector do you think has more subsidies from government? Is it the oil and gas sector? Or do you think it's the renewable energy sector, which is just coming up right now? Just one guess. Renewable energy sector? Do you know that the subsidies to the renewable energy sector is about 1/6 of that to the oil and gas sector today? Not Nigeria, globally. So we are actually subsidizing the oil and gas sector in which we're pumping so much of resources. I'm not talking about Nigeria. I'm talking about global statistics, which is sometimes very, very shocking. Second question I want to ask, when we talk about renewable energies, are we also talking about sustainable? And what does sustainable mean? So right now we're in this room, I'm freezing. Does the air conditioner need to be so cold? How much energy is that actually consuming? We're using a central air conditioning system that is also powering the corridor. Is there anybody in there? We are lighting up this room with so many light bulbs that are actually not optimized to minimize the use of energy. And guess what we've done? We've drawn the curtains. If you were to open up those curtains, it's a natural source of light that doesn't even require any additional infrastructure to translate into light in this room. So my question is, to what extent are we thinking sustainably all the way through to our architecture? If the power went off right now, we would be in darkness and we would be heated up in heat because the windows probably won't open. The curtains might be glued to their locations because they're not used to being open. How sustainable is that?
There are some decisions we have to make today. And unfortunately, sometimes in Nigeria, we tarry on those decisions and we never make them. PIB. We've been on this journey for about 14 years. And if you listen to Dr. Kachiku say, because we didn't pass the PIB, we probably lost over $100 billion of investment in this industry. Because investors want certainty. And one of the big certainties is, what are the bases for me to make money? And that's what the PIB is about. And when they don't have that confidence, that money doesn't come. And Nigeria is not the only destination for funds. I think some of the other two big decisions we need to make is, how do we enable this gas value chain? I'm going to talk on how gas will enable growth. And I'm just going to use one statement from me. The federal government does not need revenue from gas. So you don't need to tax gas. You don't need to collect royalty. And I know my colleagues in government and NNPC say, that's wrong. Gas is a multiplier effect. A molecule of gas, what it would do to the economy of this country is huge. It probably has a 10-fold impact for government, both in revenue and all the other things they're looking for. So my view is, why do you want to make revenue from gas? If you don't build the reserves and you don't drill the wells or you don't build the infrastructure, there'll be no gas to send to any power plant. But if it's not economic for me to drill that well, I would not drill it. And these are just the small little fundamentals for me that when I say, what are the decisions we need to make today? One other one is big projects taking what I call investment decisions and sanctions on them. It just takes too long. Some of you may have heard of Bonga Southwest. I mean, this is a project that should actually be on stream by now, but it's still waiting for an investment decision. And I can touch on a few other projects like that across. But when we don't take those decisions, other countries produce oil and gas, and we don't. So when I say that we need to make decisions of today, we as a country need to make those decisions so that we can move forward. But when we tarry, nothing happens. We need to move from being a commodity selling country to being a value-based country. We produce oil and we export it and we sell. Very few countries who are major oil resource holding countries sell their oil that way. They get the derivatives out of them. They have the multiplier effect. They create more value out of that product, and then they sell that. They don't sell gas, they sell plastics. They don't sell crude oil, they sell all the various blends that you can get out of it. But what we've been doing over the last 60 years is still selling the same thing. So for me, if I had to tell government to do one thing is take a decision and shift from selling the commodity that you produce and create more value out of it and sell that value. What that does is you generate more revenue, you create employment, and you start to have an industrial base that this country can build on. In simple terms, we need to grow our production. We've been touching at 2 million barrels a day. We should be at 3. Gas, we should be producing about 15 BCF a day. If we produce 15 BCF a day, we'll have enough gas to fire all the gas plants in this country. And we can do that in the next 5 years. But to do that, we're going to need to spend every year for the oil and gas industry $25 to $30 billion. That's not going to come from government. That's going to come from other investors. And you have to make this place conducive for them, competitive for that investment to come in. If we don't, that money won't come in. And when I talk about the table stakes, when I said fix the basics, if you don't fix those basics, the investor will not bring their money here.